Finally, we have Justin Barron. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and begin.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chris and other Oak Brook residents for putting this together. I am Justin Barron. I'm from Darien. I graduated from Hinsdale South in 2017, and since I graduated there, many of the classes that I took, my friends took, that teach you real life skills, such as digital video production, digital imaging, which taught me all these skills that I used to run my campaign, no longer exist at Hinsdale South, while still being offered at Hinsdale Central. And I am in this race, and not only those classes, many, many, many other classes are cut from South, but are still being offered at Central. And that is why I'm in this race. I cannot sit back and let this happen without me making my voice heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead and begin, please.
Yes, thank you. In terms of, I think this question could be best answered by what the community is telling us. By listening to the community, by the community coming to public comments, being active in with the board, the politics, making their voice heard, that helps us as board members determine where we should devote our time and our resources. Because we board members, we have a lot going on, and we might miss some things. So if public has a concern or a comment, they should come to the board meetings, whether virtually or in person. You don't have to stay, come make your comment, make your voice heard. And that is how us as board members could listen and effectively govern. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we move on to our next question, I've gotten several texts to return briefly to our first yes/no question, because many of our viewers did not get to see your responses with regard to your raise of hand. So we are going to go back to this question here. Do you foresee any circumstance where Oak Brook students are redistricted to Hinsdale South? And I'm just going to call off your names as I see your hands raised. For those of you—
Are we doing a virtual hand raise, or I'm sorry, I
just raise your hand
okay,
so I can see it on the screen. Thank you. And then I'll just read off the names here. So yeah, for those of you that say yes, please go ahead and raise your hand. There are no yes hand raises. For those of you that say no, please go ahead and raise your hand. Everybody has raised their hand for no. Thank you very much. We will do that for the remaining rapid fire questions. Okay, so now we move on to our next rapid fire question. Also a yes or no by show of hands. Do you support the curriculum changes to math and science? Please raise your hand now if you do support the current changes. We have yes from Tamakia Edwards, from Kevin Camden, Marty Turek, and that is it. Now please raise your hand no if you do not support these current changes. We have no votes from Terry Walker, Peggy James, Debbie Leventhal, Justin Barron, Karen Shannon, Mark Pinow, Jeff Waters, Karen Shannon. Did I get everybody? Thank you. Next, we have Justin Barron. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and you may begin.
Yes, thank you. I'm surprised no one brought this up, but when we talk about meeting kids where they're at, we don't know where they're at with COVID-19 and the effects on academically on these kids. I predict test scores are going to drop like a rock, and we have years and years of work to do to get these kids up to standards. So, and when this is all over, we have to sit down, figure this out. Where are these kids at? How and just basically reshuffle them all. Where are these kids at? How can we get them back up to standards? And that's going to take years. That's not going to be an overnight thing. In terms of academic equity, I would say, if anyone's got the time to check out Alan Ruby's documentary, The D86 Squeeze, you could see the differences in the classes between the two schools. We have the resources to fix these inequalities, so we must act on them. We cannot be sidelined, and we cannot sit on the sides and scratch our heads not sure where these kids are at. We must do what's right to get these kids up. And that's all I really have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Justin Barron. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and you may begin.
Thank you. I agree with Karen Shannon. Referendum is a dirty word when the board uses fear to pass its agenda. You cannot effectively run a school, expect to pass referenda if you go out and say, if this doesn't pass, every single sport, every single club is going to be cut. That, first of all, that wouldn't have saved any money at all, and you're just scaring everyone. And in terms of trying to avoid another referendum, are just finding little ways to save money. Like, for example, low interest rates right now. We were able to save a lot of money on bonds that way. And we would have saved upwards of $50 million in the last referendum if we changed the attendance boundaries. This is something school districts do all the time, is they change attendance boundaries to match the population trends in the community. And this hasn't happened in the district. No major change has happened since 1990. And like I was saying, it would have saved upwards of $50 million on the last referendum. This is something that must be done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Justin Barron. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and you may begin.
Yes, thank you. I just, I want to make it clear that me and every other candidate on this forum will do everything in our power to make sure these kids are back 100% full-time in school 5 days a week with lunch in 10 whole periods. And with the changing of IDPH guidelines and CDC guidelines, for example, from 6 feet to 3 feet, changes to the 50-person in a room rule and lunch, we can now do that. And we will do everything in our power to make that happen. But, unless any candidate is, willing to break these guidelines, which, they've looked into and it's huge risk and liability, we have to, follow those rules. But we will do everything in our power to make sure these children are back in school 100% this fall. Thank you.
This is going to be a yes/no question. So I'm going to ask that question and then we will start with the yes responses followed by the no responses. So the question is, do you support eliminating zeros from the grading scale? If you support this or have a yes vote, please go ahead and raise your hand and I will read your names off. We have a yes vote from Justin Barron. And that is all. A no vote from everybody else, I'm assuming. Terry Walker is a no vote. Karen Shannon is a no vote. Marty Turek is a no vote. Mark Pinow is a no vote. Debbie Leventhal is a no vote. Peggy James is a no vote. Jeff Waters is a no vote. Mr. Camden, sorry.
I'm not prepared to say yes or no. There's more information that the board needs to be presented before we make that decision.
Thank you. Tamakia Edwards is a no vote. Peggy James is a no vote. Thank you. Okay. We are going to move on to the next question, which is along the same lines. You'll be given an opportunity to explain your position on this. Explain your position on the most recent grading scale changes the district plans on implementing in the fall of 2021. You have 2 minutes to begin. Next, we have Justin Barron. Please go ahead and unmute yourself and you may begin.
Yes, thank you. As someone who was at Hinsdale South just a couple years ago, I have a very much personal experience that, I could share and a very personal perspective. And a 0 is a killer. If you get a 0, you are not getting an A. You get 2 or 3 zeros, you're not getting a B. And as someone who, as someone like me who pays attention, always in class, turns most assignments in on time. And, you with lots of assignments, with lots of different classes, if you have, like Marty was saying, a bad day, you have one assignment slips through, that you're done. It's a killer. And your A is now a B. And now that it's impossible to raise it back up to an A, I'm just going to not try as hard and just take the B. In, what was presented at the board meeting last week, I think some of those, extra, missing an essential, I think those letters could help help parents understand what is going on. In college, you don't have as many assignments as a high school. So as long as that distinction is clear, that, hey, in college, you're not just going to get a 50% because there's not as many assignments in college. High school, there's hundreds and hundreds of assignments. And, you have a bad day, one slips through the cracks and you're done. It's impossible. And I'm not going to try as hard. And I've lived through it. I've gotten zeros and I've done the same thing. I'm like, all right, I ain't gonna try as hard. Why should I pay attention now? But that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are at the 4-minute mark. So we are going to forgo our last 2 questions here and go ahead and move forward with the conclusions. You'll each have 30 seconds to provide your conclusion. And as I said, we will go in reverse order of the way your names are listed on the ballot. So we will start with Justin Barron. You may go ahead and begin your 30-second closing statement now. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say thank you for everyone for supporting me. I thank my friends and family for making this possible. I thank my friend Jeremy for doing so much research and helping me get to the position where I am today. I'm grateful for everyone else to be able to share a stage with everyone. It's been such a life-changing experience. And I just want to say, vote number 10, Justin Barron, and only Justin Barron on April 6th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Marty Torek. Please go ahead and begin.
Thank you. And Justin, I love your commitment. I really appreciate you being part of this. But thank you. And thank you for hosting this.